YouTube, how's it going? The Godhouse is back with my Week 7 score predictions, picks against the spread for every single game. We do this video every Wednesday. Straight up picks with the boys. Fun time, already up for Week 7. Power rankings already up. We have trade deadline videos already up. More to come on that. Maybe an updated mock draft soon. We got all kinds of coverage here for the NFL on our channel. So like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter because it's the same deal there. Always interact with you guys. And there's a link pinned in the comments for that. And our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV. This is the Rams chain from the GLD Shop. They have all NFL teams and more jewelry. We have a giveaway going on with them. Links pinned in the comments for that. Anything you are looking for. So we'll go game by game with score prediction at the end. We will go over all my against the spread picks and we'll show my record on the year. So Jags Saints, a little tricky right now. I mean, the game's a day away. Yesterday, Trevor Lawrence talked about, he expects to play. They signed today, just a little bit ago, they signed Nathan Rourke to their active roster, not just the practice squad. So now they have Beathard and him. So where are we at here? So if Trevor Lawrence doesn't play, if he does not play, I am going to switch this. I am going to pick the Saints and in a low-scoring game, but the Saints would cover that one. I would imagine the line would change, but either way, I think the line's going to change. I think once it's confirmed that Lawrence is playing, if he's playing, I think they'll be favored. So it's a little tricky. I would imagine Lawrence plays, even though it's now they have 3 quarterbacks on the active roster. Maybe it's just in case situation, but I'm going to go somewhat lower scoring here, 23-17 Jags, so obviously covering that +1, but keep an eye on for Lawrence. Don't put money on this game quite yet, probably. I just like the way the Jags are playing. They're playing as good as anyone on both sides of the ball. Saints are struggling on offense, even though they have weapons, but I'd imagine the Jags can lock them down, but also create some takeaways as well, or maybe at least one. On defense. And I think their offense will do enough. Yeah, Lawrence, maybe not 100%. Saints do a good job on defense in general, but they're not going to let ETN go crazy, perhaps like he did the last. He's kind of been going wild the last couple games, but, so I think it keeps it low scoring. But the Jags are just a much better team on both sides of the ball. Well, when you combine both sides of the ball. I love the Saints defense, but 23-17, this is if Trevor Lawrence is playing. I will take the Saints against that -1 spread as well if Trevor Lawrence is not playing. Not a lot of trust in Beathard against the Saints defense. On to the Sunday games, the Raiders and the Bears. It could be a backup quarterback battle in Chicago. It's starting to get a little chilly. I live there, so it's supposed to be actually in the 60s, surprisingly, because it was starting to get cold. So it probably won't be too cold this week. But yeah, I don't expect the offenses to be super explosive in this game. Could it be Aiden O'Connell versus Tyson Bagent? Probably what it's going to be. I'll trust the Raiders. I think Max Crosby and company will get enough pressure against the Bears, and that could be the difference. But looking at the weapons as well, I know the Bears have a guy like DJ Moore out there. They have other weapons, but the Raiders with Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers has been playing outstanding. They're getting Michael Mayer going, which kind of makes the game plan a little tougher. Maybe a secret weapon still, and then Josh Jacobs. All those weapons, I think they'll find a way to put enough points on the board, but a mixture of offense and defense in this one. So I have them winning and just covering the spread. It's tough because backup quarterbacks, but Raiders should just win this game. I got them 20-16. It's a tricky one to bet on for sure. Browns and Colts. The Colts wearing those new uniforms they got, the black helmets. I actually like those. I like those a lot. But I have the Browns winning this game. It's tricky as well. Is Deshaun Watson going to play or not? I saw that they're optimistic he will play, but it's still early in the week. So this is a score if Deshaun Watson plays. So I have 20-13. The Browns defense is top tier, playing as good as anyone. The Colts kind of rely on the run game on offense, and I don't think the Browns will let them go that crazy there. I think they can blitz. They will blitz, cause problems for Minshew, create turnovers. So I'm not really trusting the Colts to get much going offensively, unless they can get that run game going, which they surprisingly did against the Titans. So maybe they can do it here against the Browns. But if Watson plays, I still don't like the Browns scoring a ton of points, but then they'll score enough. If it's not Watson, I am still leaning towards the Browns because their defense, we saw what they did against the Niners, but it's going to be much closer and much lower of a total for the Browns, obviously, than 20. But I think their defense can win this game alone, can cause some problems. Colts coming off a big loss against the Jags. Browns coming off a big win. So it's tricky, though, because the Browns are only -1.5 right now, so Vegas is probably not sure if Watson's playing or not. If he's not playing, does P.J. Walker win 2 straight games? This one in Indianapolis. So we'll see. A lot of these games, because of all the injuries, it's a little tricky, but I like the way the matchup favors the Browns here. I'll take them 20-13. Bills-Patriots. The Bills favored by 8.5. They were favored by a whopping 14 last week, and they weren't really that close to covering it. Maybe they were lucky to pull off a win against the Giants, but I think they'll take care of business, get back on track on this one. And the offense should have success. The Patriots without 2 top players. I don't know if the Bills will go crazy on offense, but they'll do enough. I think Diggs will have a big game in this one. And then the Patriots just cannot get anything going on offense. And the Bills, I know defense is beat up, but it's still a very good defense. They'll get pressure on Mac Jones. They'll create some turnovers. So I have them winning by 11. 24-13 Bills is what I have. On to the next game. This one's pretty tough. Daniel Jones could play this week. I like them better right now with Tyrod Taylor. So that's, makes it tough to pick as well with who's playing quarterback. Will Andrew Thomas be back? Maybe unlikely, but it's a possibility. That could, tweak my score, my prediction. I thought about the Giants in this game because they played pretty well against the Bills. Defense played outstanding. They can get pressure on Howell with the blitz and make him struggle. Get sacks, make him, cause some turnovers. They were very tight in coverage last week against the Bills. So they can win this game because of that. With the amount of man coverage they run, I think that favors the Commanders. If they were like a zone blitz team, then I would say probably Giants. But the Commanders having multiple speedy options at receiver, the ability to run the ball, and to have a quarterback that can scramble against man coverage, that should favor them. They should get the job done, but the Commanders are both teams are tough to pick because the Giants, who's going to be at quarterback? Is Andrew Thomas going to be back? Is the defense going to continue to play like that? Because that was outstanding last week, but we haven't seen enough of a sample size, of that. It's just a small sample size, I should say. And the Commanders looked awful against the Bears. I mean, what the hell was that? And they beat the Falcons in Atlanta. Looked pretty good, but even with the turnovers they created, it was still kind of close. So I think we're still kind of learning these teams' identities right now, so it's tough. But the Commanders should find enough success on offense against man coverage. I think we'll see a lot of running clock. I think the Commanders will run the ball a bit. Howell will scramble. Giants will use Barkley a bit. The Commanders' defense, it was looking surprisingly awful, and then last week it was pretty good. They tend to start worse than expected and get better. Are they starting to get better right now? We're still learning about these teams, even though it's week 7, but I trust the Commanders more. The Giants, I almost picked them, but that was based off the performance against the Bills. I don't know if we can expect that every single week, but I wouldn't touch this one in terms of the betting line. -2, I have the Commanders winning by a field goal, so it's right there. And I can see the Giants winning this game, so you feel safer picking them against the spread +2, maybe. It's a tricky one. That's a tricky one for sure. So I think there's not too many teams we're still learning about, like week 7, like their identity, like how consistent they are, or is their identity being inconsistent? Like these 2 teams, I think we know they're not the greatest teams in the world, but still, I kind of want to learn a little bit more here, and I think this game will tell us a lot. Falcons, Bucks. I have the Bucks winning by 4, 20-16. Pretty close to the line, but I like them covering that spread. Even though I have it kind of close, this was kind of like the closest I would have at 20-16. So I do like the Bucks covering the 2.5. Am I super confident? Not super confident, but again, even though I have them winning by 4, it's 2.5. I like it a little bit more than that seems. I don't expect the Falcons to score more than this. 17 maybe being the max. The Buccaneers disguise coverages, mix up zone and man, mainly zone, but they'll blitz, a lot in zone as well. That will really throw off Desmond Ridder. I think they'll create some turnovers. They can run the ball, sure, but they're not going to go crazy against the Bucs run defense. So, and it's in Tampa, hungry for a win. I think it favors the Buccaneers. I don't expect their offense to get going a whole lot, and they'll just do a whole just enough. I just like their defense, the way it matches up against the Falcons' offense. So more of a defensive game, but 20-16 should be around that range. Could it be? That's the tricky part, I guess, with the spread. Could it be like a 19-17? So it is a little tricky, but I do like I like that it's under 3. line for the Bucks in terms of how much they're favored by, but 2016 Tampa is what I got. I think the matchup favors them, mainly because their defense. Lions-Ravens. The Ravens are home, and the Lions are without their running backs. So actually, Gibbs could come back still, but no Montgomery, who's been a star back for them. Reality, that's reality. He's out. It's in Baltimore. The Lions are due for a loss. So maybe that's why the Ravens are favored by 3, but it is a little surprising. If they're going to be favored, why not 1, 1.5, 2? So I like the Lions. They're underdogs by 3. I like them winning by 3. The Ravens aren't consistent enough right now. They're a good team, but they're not super consistent. A lot of times they start well, and then they kind of let teams get back in it. That could be the case in this game, playing against a good Lions team. It's not the Titans. It's not the Steelers. It's not the Colts. It's the Lions. Even with that, that's the worry, though. Will the Lions have much of a running game? But the passing game looks pretty solid. The Ravens' pass rush is doing a little bit better than how they look on paper, but they've played some weaker offensive lines, too, recently. The Lions, one of the best in football. I think the Lions will find a way to do enough. I think a lot of running clock. I think the Ravens' key to success is running Lamar, because the Lions have been doing a good job stopping the run. They've been doing a really good job on defense in general, but it's a little different dealing with like a Lamar, scrambling or his design runs. But I like the Lions in this one. I think they're just the better team. Of course, that doesn't mean they're guaranteed to win. It's in Baltimore. Lamar is a new challenge for Detroit, but the Ravens got to stay consistent here. Kind of shut down an offense sometimes. So, we'll see. I think the Lions will have a really good game plan. I think they'll do just enough. I'm surprised they're underdogs by 3, but again, they are going to be missing Montgomery, so that is pretty tough. But they should get Brian Branch back as well, which could help in the slot. I think the Lions are. I think they're both good teams. I think the Lions are clearly the better team. Even if they lose this game, because any given Sunday here, but I like them 23-20. Thought about a little bit more scoring. Could be like a 26-23. I think that's very possible as well. But we'll see. Lions are due for a loss. So the Niners were due for a loss, and they lost last week. So we'll see. Steelers-Rams, that's probably one I would stay away from against the spread. I have it right there. I like the Rams, but the Steelers off a bye, and they do have that pass rush. They've won games pretty much strictly because of their pass rush, and it could be one of those games right here. And remember, they get Deontay Johnson back, so that could be huge. But when Stafford's constantly under pressure, there's not much they can do. They can kind of turn to the run, but Kyren Williams is out. If Kyren Williams was in, I would be pretty confident with the Rams here, but the Steelers could win the game because of that, because pass rush and the Rams can't really turn towards the run. But I'm going to go with the Rams. These explosive teams, the Steelers seem to have a little trouble with. I don't want the Rams to completely go away from the run, because that outside zone that they run could be deadly against the Steelers. It's something the Steelers, in the past have been struggling to stop a little bit. That McVay-Tree, that style of running game, but it's tough. They don't have Kyren Williams, but the Steelers' corners are struggling a little bit. I think the Rams can stretch the ball downfield. It just will Stafford have enough time, and Aaron Donald can cause a problem there. So, and the Steelers, no matter who they play, can you trust them to get going a lot on offense? It's tough, but it's a game that can go either way. I'm going to trust the Rams because they're explosive, passing attack. 24-20 is what I got. I would not touch that against the spread. It's a tricky one there. Cardinals, Seahawks, seems like a lot of points, but the Cardinals are starting to come back down to earth, but they will be getting Kyler and Buddha back soon. We'll see how soon. Definitely not expecting this game. I think Buddha could play. Yeah, Buddha Baker could play in this game. It's a possibility, but we'll see. So maybe this is if they both surprisingly play, like Kyler surprisingly plays. I know he's back at practice today. It was just announced actually just before recording this. But if he's somehow playing this week, we're gonna maybe have to tweak this a little bit. But I don't think he will. 8 seems like a bit though. We know this game will be really close in the first half, and the Seahawks will pull away. But will they pull away by more than 8? They could, because they are better. Again, the Cardinals lacking talent, kind of starting to show a little bit more than it did earlier in the year. Seahawks can win through the air or on the ground, but I think it'll be really close. Even the Cardinals could be winning in the first half, so will the Seahawks be pulling away that much? So 27-23 is what I have, the Seahawks winning. The defense of the Seahawks looks like it's getting better, so yeah, I want to see it in this game. If it's truly getting better, they'd play a pretty good game in this one, so that's kind of something I'm looking forward to here, but Seahawks should have this one at home. Packers-Broncos, the Packers favored by 1. I'm going to have them winning by a bit more than that. Got them winning 24-19. The Broncos have been more of an offensive team, but not much of an offensive team. More offense than defense, but the defense stepped up last week. But the Packers are really good at, they're not really good, but they're good at winding clock and pounding the football. And Aaron Jones should be back, but we'll see. They did sign James Robinson. But Aaron Jones could be a really big problem for the Broncos on the ground and through the air, and that could be the difference in this one. But off that bye as well for the Packers, I think they'll do enough offensively because the Broncos' defense just isn't much of a threat. And then for the Broncos, I don't trust their offense a whole lot. And the Packers actually that's kind of their identity. They got a pretty good defense. They're pretty sound in coverage. They get pressure. Rashawn Gary's having a hell of a year. Preston Smith's pretty solid as well. So I think this game favors the Packers on both sides of the ball. Yes, it could be close. It's in Denver, I guess home field advantage with the mile high with that altitude. But I like the Packers defense shutting things down here for the most part. 24-19 Green Bay, bounce back game for them. Next, I have an upset, so a little bit of a bold upset here. Got to do these once in a while, but don't want to force them at the same time. I got a feeling about that. I just got a gut feeling about the Chargers in this one. It seems like every time the Chargers play the Chiefs, it's the same game. They're kind of outplaying them for a bit, and the Chiefs kind of figured out in the fourth quarter down the stretch, win the game, and I was picking the Chiefs in all those games. I kind of figured they would do things like that, but my gut tells me it's a similar game, but the Chargers find a way kind of right when people are doubting them a little bit. Not the best outing on Monday night against the Cowboys at home. The offense was a little disappointing, but the Cowboys' defense is still very, very good. The Chiefs' defense is playing well this year, but I think a factor in that Chargers game, the refs were a factor. I mean, they weren't letting either team play ball, so you can't really judge, even if it was siding towards the Chargers a little bit more, you can't really judge in that game like that. But I did note when the Chargers had like second and long, third and long, they were explosive. Like, they were tough to stop in those situations. So Herbert off kind of a rough game. I think he bounces back. He ran very well in that last game, so that's maybe a little bit worried for the Chiefs. But then again, the Chargers pass protected pretty well against the Cowboys' elite pass rush last week until the end, but that is Micah Parsons and company. The Chiefs, they have Chris Jones, but this isn't a constant threat off the edge from the Chiefs. It's not the Cowboys, even though they're locked down in the secondary, it seems like. So and the Chargers' offensive line is very good. So I think they'll protect Herbert. I think he'll have a better game. He won't overthrow Keenan Allen as much. I think they'll do enough. And they'll use Eckler. I think it's still up in the air on what the Chargers can do offensively. We saw week 1 against the Dolphins. They pound the football, like run, open up to pass. And then since then, they've been kind of airing it out more, kind of like the old Chargers, like last year's Chargers. But Eckler was gone for a bit. He just came back last week. So it's a little bit up in the air on what they may do. I think they can use that to their advantage. I think a lot more Eckler in this game than we saw maybe last game, but he was a threat through the air still. Defense looked good. I mean, it looked really bad the first couple weeks. It looked good last week. I loved how they stopped the run, and I think Pacheco's kind of been opening things up for the Chiefs. But I love how the Chargers stopped the run. I know dealing with Holmes and Kelsey through the air could be an issue. Maybe a little bit more Derwin James on him this time. They seem better without J.C. Jackson. I guess free safety is a little bit of a question for the Chargers. That's where the Chiefs could beat them. But Chiefs receivers are really, really struggling. I like Rashee Rice a lot. They got to get him going more. Justin Watson was kind of reliable, and he's out now. And their Chiefs they've been winning, but their offense has been pretty underwhelming. So both these teams kind of, when they win, they kind of been just escaping by it for the most part. The Chiefs haven't really played anybody that strong except for week 1 and 2. They lost the Lions and the Jags. You can't really base things off week 1 and 2 at the same time. The Jags were bad back then, so I don't know. I think it's going to be a beautiful day out there in Kansas City, so it's not like it's freezing where it sides with the Chiefs. Just something's telling me the Chargers, for the reasons I explained as well, something is telling me that they just squeak by. They're plus 5.5, so Vegas thinks the Chiefs can win around that, so it is a bit bold. I'm just feeling the Chargers in this one, just a gut feeling here, but there are matchups reasons as well. So I think a big game for both teams. Chargers kind of got to put it together, show us their identity, and the Chiefs got to execute on offense. They move the ball, but can they get touchdowns instead of field goals here? Sunday night should be a hell of a game. I think it'll be a shootout. I like the Dolphins. It's tricky, though, because it's prime time in Philly. They're wearing their retros, which are super nice. The last time the Dolphins had a big game, it was in Buffalo, and they got destroyed in somewhat of a shootout. more so for the Bills. But so it is a big test. You're playing another really good offense. The Dolphins' defense has been struggling. The Eagles are salty after that last loss. They're not playing the Jets. The Dolphins are better, but it's also not the Jets' defense. What actually caused them problems. It's a much weaker defense here. So the Eagles really could get going in this game, but I'm not really, I like their pass rush, the Eagles, because they got good players. They could cause problems for Tua. But the secondary of the Eagles hasn't been coached too well. I don't really like the coverages they're calling it. They're not really mixing it up enough. It's kind of a little more predictable, unlike last year. And the Dolphins get early separation, so I don't know if the pressure is going to matter on Tua is going to matter a ton. Just two high-powered offenses. I'm going to trust the Dolphins a little bit more just because of the speed and how quick they can get separation. I think they get a little quicker than the Eagles do. So, it is a test for both teams because these teams kind of been beating softer opponents. And the Dolphins played a good team in the Bills, and they get beat up. I know it was in Buffalo, it was early in the year, and the Eagles were, kind of, not even looking that great in some wins, and they look good in the Bucs win. But besides that one getting by and they lose to the Jets, they look really disappointing on offense. So I think a true test for both teams to kind of show people okay, who's for real, who's not, So I'm going to trust the Dolphins offense a bit more. The Eagles been turning it over. They'll score in this game. But we'll see. I think a key, how the Eagles will get pressure on Tua, but how quick will Tua get the ball out because of the separation of his receivers? And you do have to worry about Mostert as well because he's been tearing it up. They're underdogs by 2. I'll go the Dolphins 30-27, but that is. I'd almost guarantee, I'd almost guarantee a Dolphins victory if it was in Miami. I think being in Philly makes it very, very interesting. It feels like they're always home on these big primetime games. So a little bit of love for the Eagles there. Can they pull it off? Monday night, the Niners and the Vikings. The Vikings without Justin Jefferson. The Niners could be without McCaffrey, and they're a little beat up elsewhere as well. But it sounds like some guys could be ready. It's a tricky one as well because the Niners are a lot better. The Vikings offense is not good. Doesn't seem too good without. I think it'd still be good, but without Jefferson, the Niners defense presents some problems for the Vikings offense. The Niners, we're looking too great last week, but they were a little beat up. I think they could hold McCaffrey out. I think just under that 7 line, 6-point win for the Niners. I don't know if the Vikings offense gets enough going, but they're. Purdy actually, had some problems with that Schwartz defense last week. A lot of man coverage, some blitz, and the Vikings are in the floor. It's not the Browns defense because they don't have the talent, but Flores calls a really good and tricky defense. Disguise a lot of things. You just don't know what they're doing. So maybe the Niners aren't super explosive offensively in this one, but they'll do enough. I'm confident with them, even if they hold some guys out. If they end up holding more guys out than we thought, the line will probably go down. But I don't really think much more change. I think they're kind of firm on where the score's at. If everybody plays, if McCaffrey plays, everybody plays, then I'd probably give the Niners more points and then they cover. So I guess to monitor that stuff. But the Vikings are at home, tough place to play. They don't have a win at home yet. So my against spread picks. So we are on the year. You see in the top right, we are 56-34. There's a website that has all the experts' record. Keep track. If you plug me into there, we're actually 4th, so we've done pretty good this year against the spread picks. I have the Jags +1, which if Lawrence is playing, I like a lot. If he's not, then I will switch it. I will have the Saints covering that, but the line will probably change. Raiders -3, I probably wouldn't touch it because you got a couple of backup quarterbacks in there. I wouldn't touch it. Browns -1.5, I love if Watson's playing, but we don't really know yet, so it's a little tricky, but we'll see. Bills, it's probably too big of a line. One that would be an alternate line candidate, but I do have them covering. Washington, don't touch that one. -2 against the Giants. I wouldn't touch that game. I have them winning by 3. Bucks -2.5. I think they'll cover that. I have it close, but I really think they'll win by at least a field goal. But they'll be right there. But it's not like a guarantee. It's not one super high in my confidence. But looking at 2.5, it's staying under 3. I like that one. The Lions +3 I like a lot because if they lose, it's going to be within 3. Worst case push, it feels like. I think they win the game. I think they're the better team than the Ravens. Rams, another one I wouldn't touch against the Steelers. I would not touch that one at all. The rest of the games, Cardinals +8. Seems like a bit, but the Seahawks are much better. 8 seems like a bit, though. Packers -1. I kind of like, I guess you could see them losing the game in Denver, but I think between the two teams, what's the thing that stands out the most? And the Packers defense. Packers defense is much better than anything else in this game. But then you have a fact. If Aaron Jones is playing, you have a factor of him. If Aaron Jones play, I like the Packers -1. I definitely do. Chargers +5.5. I like that a lot as well because I think they can win the game. Yes, that's a bold prediction. But if they do lose, I would imagine it'd be within 3. I really, of course, it's possible they can lose by 7, but a touchdown. But I just don't see it. I think the Chargers still got some tricks, in the back pocket here. Dolphins +2. I have them winning the game. It is tricky though because could they realistically lose by 3? Sure, they could. So maybe an alternate line there of +3, just bump it up 1. The Vikings +7. I want to see who's if everyone's playing for the Niners, I have them covering the 7. But 7 seems like a lot. Monday night, Niners coming off of a bad game, kind of getting exposed a little. I don't want to say exposed because they're still great. It's one game, but maybe there's some things on tape where you could kind of use, I should say. That's a better way to put it because they're definitely not exposed. In Minnesota, I mentioned that. Yeah, their defense has been playing better. 7 seems like a lot, but again, if the Niners play everybody, like McCaffrey he's the main one where I don't think he's going to play, but then they probably cover. It's going to be, I probably wouldn't touch it. It's going to be close, but 7 kind of seems like a lot. I didn't think 7 was enough against the Eagles when the Vikings played them in prime time, and they ended up making that one closer than expected. Different week, different game, but they're home this time. So I don't know. That was kind of my thinking with picking them against the spread, but probably one I wouldn't touch there. But we'll have my rankings of best against the spread, money line, all that in the next video, tomorrow's video. Every Thursday, the locks videos, so always enjoy doing that. So join us for all of our content. We also have not just the weekly content, but trade deadline videos coming out. We have a recent one covering every single team. Check that out on the channel. We'll have more of that, maybe a mock draft in the near future. I'm still deciding this week or next week, but won't be any later than that. And then we'll have kind of the midway of the season point, midway point videos too. That's coming up. So we got you guys covered. Join us, like, subscribe to notifications on, follow us on Twitter. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.